Good morning and welcome to our information session for carers and their line managers and their colleagues. We're coming to you live this morning from the Graham Hills building, so don't be alarmed if you hear traffic, siren or any other noises from our beautiful city this morning. I'm Alison Locke. I'm one of the HR managers in the HR Directorate and I lead on the carer support throughout the university. I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Hi there, my name is Dawn Watt. I'm an HR advisor for the Faculty of Engineering and I support Alison and Inga with the Carers Group.
Hi there, I'm Inga Fick. I'm an administrator in the School of Education and I'm the chair for the Strathclyde Carers Group.
So what's prompted us to deliver this session today? Well, a range of different things, and the first is the number of carers that we have at the university and that we expect to have in the future. Carers Scotland estimates that 1 in 7 people in the workforce are caring for someone who's ill or frail or who has a disability. And secondly, the role that we have in supporting our carers. And for our staff, the university has a really important role in helping our staff who are carers balance their working and their caring commitments and helping them to be resilient and continually effective in their work role. And it makes good organisational sense. It helps us recruit and retain staff that have caring responsibilities. Now, you may know that we've also been awarded the Carer Positive Established status. We were delighted to be awarded the Carer Positive Engaged Award in 2016, and at the end of last year we achieved the Carer Positive Established Award to recognise the support that we've developed for our carers. And if you'd like to know more about the Carer Positive Award, which is run by Carers Scotland, you can get some information from their website. And finally, our carers told us that they'd like us to run a session like this following last year's Carers Week. We were told that carers would like some easy to access training, both for themselves and for potential carers and for line managers. Now, we'd love to hear from you during this session, and if you'd like to ask us a question, please do instant message Laura Hegarty using the details that you've been given before the session. We'll try and do that either whilst we're doing the session, or we'll pick up some questions at the end. Alternatively, you can contact any of the three of us after this session, and the details should be coming up on your screen just now for each of us, so please feel free to get in touch. So let's move on then to the 6 key questions that we are asked most often by both carers and their line managers. And I'll hand over to Dawn for the first question.
Hi there. Okay, so question 1 is, am I a carer or is my member of staff a carer? So first and foremost, there is no legal definition of what a carer is. So when we designed and introduced the carers policy at Strathclyde, we had to decide what that meant for the purposes of our policy and also the support available across the university. So in order to do that, we had to take account of the fact that everyone's caring responsibilities are different and they're often changeable. Our policy defines a carer as a member of staff who provides or intends to provide either a substantial amount of unpaid care on a regular basis for an individual who is ill, older and/or frail or disabled, or it can also be ad hoc care where there is a change in circumstances of the health of an individual who is ill, older and/or frail or disabled. The individual requiring the care must be someone who reasonably relies on that staff member for their assistance. So what does that mean in practice? Firstly, you have to be a member of staff at the university, so you can't be a contractor who provides work to the university on a self-employed basis. You have to either be providing the care or be intending to provide care. So that might be the case where a loved one has just recently been diagnosed with ill health. You have to be providing unpaid care. So this policy doesn't apply to members of staff who work for the university, but who also work as a paid carer for another organisation. The unpaid care that you have to provide has to be substantial, so it can't be minor or trivial. And as long as the care that you do provide is substantial, even if it's ad hoc, so for example that could be irregular or difficult to predict, then you will be covered by the policy. So that's the policy definition. Inga, is there anything you'd like to add about how that actually works in practice?
I think quite often it's assumed that caring role is a physical role, But actually, a caring role can also be emotional. This could be for different reasons. It could be more that you're caring for somebody with mental health issues, so your caring role is just as heavy, but it's more emotional rather than physical. Also, you have those carers who are sole carers. They are literally just the only person out there that can take care of the cared for out there. It could be a neighbour, it could be a loved one, etc. And the ad hoc care, which I think you had alluded to earlier as well, is basically your loved one is suddenly falling ill and they need to go into hospital. So this is a temporary thing, but nonetheless your role can be quite heavy. Even if they're in hospital, it is still very much a heavy role to be involved in caring for that person.
Okay. Thanks, Inga. Well, our second most frequently asked question is, how do I or how does a member of my staff tell the university that they're a carer or that I'm a carer? Well, if you choose to tell the university you're a carer, often that's done through your line manager, and that's great because it allows for a really useful discussion to take place about the support that you might need. But we would also ask you to go into Pegasus and go into My Personal Details and check the box that confirms that you're a carer. Now, the reason that we ask you to do that is, firstly, you're going to be added to a confidential list, which is held by the HR team, and you'll then receive dedicated emails from the HR team, usually from Dawn and I, that relate directly to you. So, for example, there might be a change to benefits legislation which impacts upon carers, or will forward you information about what's going on for carers throughout the university. And you're going to be blind copied into all of those communications, which means that your confidentiality is ensured, and we'll come on later to talk about whether or not you'd want anybody else to know that you're a carer. And we'll invite you to the next Carers Group meetings. We'll come on later to talk about them, and to other events like Carers Week. So even if you don't want to tell your line manager that you're a carer, it is really useful to update Pegasus, because you'll get access to those carer emails and you'll find out a wee bit more about the support that's on offer through the university. Inga, is there anything that you think I've missed or that you want to add to that?
Well, I think as a line manager, short of regularly marketing the fact that there is a Strathclyde Carers Group, there is not much we can do. Generally speaking, outside of the university, people are referred by their GPs, social workers, etc. So this is the way they get introduced to a carers organisation. As you said already, if you're a carer here, I basically urge you that you do check that box on Pegasus, even if you don't want to share the role that you have with your line manager. At least you will be able to get the updates, and that might make you feel confident in the end to actually share that with your line manager as well.
Thank you. I think it's probably worth also saying that if you're no longer a carer, that's within your control to go into Pegasus and uncheck the box to say that you're no longer a carer, and we can stop sending those communications. It's entirely up to you. Inga, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, quite often, unfortunately, the reason why you're no longer a carer is because the person that you're caring for dies. And it is, in other carers organisations, it's customary to still provide help for an ex-carer, because you can imagine that the transition becoming a carer and no longer caring is very arduous and very emotional. And they've been so busy with their caring life that the gap that is left there bewilders them so much that it's harder to deal with the grief that they have. So it's important to keep on having that support and come out to the group and maybe be able to share that emotion with other carers or ex-carers.
I think that's a really important point, actually, that it's within your control. So if you don't want to receive the information anymore, then you don't have to, but there's nothing to say that you can't continue to receive that support if you've recently become an ex-carer. So thank you. Dawn, hand over to you for the next question.
Thank you. So question 3 is, can I ask someone if they're a carer, or can my manager ask me if I'm a carer? Clearly it's a really sensitive subject, and we know that many of our carers don't want to be identified as a carer. However, for others, they perhaps don't realise that they are a carer, and they're therefore missing out on the support that's available at work. We do encourage all of our line managers to sensitively raise the issue where it seems appropriate to do so. It's certainly encouraged as part of the annual ADR process, both to understand whether if someone has caring responsibilities, how that may have impacted upon their performance over the past year, but also to ensure that that individual does have support at work. And as a university, we're also keen to know the number of carers who are out there and the size of that population in the university to ensure that our policies and practices support those individuals. So as you're aware, ADR only happens once a year. So what if you, as a line manager, think one of your members of staff have caring responsibilities, but they haven't disclosed that to you or spoken to you about that? So how would you, what would cause you to think that? There can be numerous things that may happen. You may identify as a line manager, perhaps the member of staff is more tired, more distracted than normal. Perhaps you're getting requests for annual leave, but at very short notice. Now, clearly these can be indicators of a whole host of and a whole range of things. So what we would certainly encourage you to do is to have a conversation with that individual, and clearly to do that privately and on a one-to-one basis, and just speak to them and ask them if you've noticed these things and are there reasons behind that, and the individual may choose to tell you about their caring responsibilities. Now, if you need advice on how to approach that conversation, I would encourage you to contact your HR team. That's what we're here for. We're here to help and provide that advice and support for you as a line manager. You should also be aware that in raising the subject or speaking to the individual, they may not want to discuss that, and they may not want to discuss in detail their caring role. And it's important that as a line manager you respect that wish. What you can do as a bare minimum is certainly signpost them to the support services that are available across the university, such as PAM Assist, which we'll talk about later on, and also the carers website, where they'll find a whole host of information as well as useful external links to other support sites. Inga, anything I've missed?
Well, you mentioned the annual leave. I would say that another thing that could trigger a conversation is, for instance, looking at the staff sickness. Quite often you find that the pressure of a caring role is incredibly tough and very wearing on a carer itself. So you can that could be one of the things that could certainly make you aware of it. I would be cautious as to how to approach it to a staff member, because unfortunately, due to what the person they're caring for, this could be from anything from having a physical disability to an emotional disability, but also things like drug addiction, alcoholism, etc. And these are unfortunately still quite often taboo subjects. You'll find that a carer will not want to speak about that, because it is something that they feel is so close, and they might get judged on it. So maybe just going gung-ho and saying, "Are you a carer?" might actually make them clam up, and then you might not get them to get the help anymore. So I would, as you said, approach them maybe gently and signpost them. If you feel that they are and it doesn't look like it's going to open up to you, just signpost them immediately and just say, we have all sorts of help out there with PAM Assist, etc. We have, the university does a brilliant thing. Maybe even bring a story in about, having seen another carer that joined the Strathclyde Carers group, etc., and got a lot of benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's true. It really depends on that relationship between the line manager and employee. So you really need to tailor that approach and how you approach that situation based on that relationship. Thank you.
Well, the next question that we often get asked is about the type of changes that either a carer can request, or if it's a line manager that their colleague can request to balance working life with caring responsibilities. And it's probably worth saying at the outset that we absolutely appreciate that no two carers are the same, and the cared for's needs will never be the same, even if the illnesses are on the face of it the same. So carers' needs will vary. There's a range of potential support options at Strathclyde for carers contained within a number of our different policies, and I'll quickly run through and signpost where they are. First is our flexible working policy. So if you've been employed by the university for 26 weeks or more, you can request either temporary or permanent changes to your contract. So you might need a change to your start and finish times to allow you to visit perhaps a disabled relative at key times during the day. An annualised hours contract might be something that is of interest to you, to allow you to work full time at certain points in the year and on a reduced basis at other times, and perhaps to fit around planned medical treatment. Part-time hours might be something that would help you greatly, so to care for someone or to put some other care arrangements in place. So there's a whole host of things that can be requested. Inga, is there anything else that you've come across in your role as chair of the carers group and in your experience?
I think hospital appointments are probably one of the most difficult ones to get somebody to, and sometimes is the case they literally just need an hour towards the end of the day, but unfortunately the way their contracts work just now is that they would have to take half a day. Annual leave is very precious to a carer because it's probably the only time that they're going to be able to unwind a little bit. As you can imagine, this is more like 24/7 if they're working, caring role, etc. So definitely being able to have that facility of just being able to take an hour and maybe make it up for during the lunchtime or something like that, saying, well, I'll work half an hour during lunch today and half an hour during the lunch.
So that flexibility then can be key, and that's worth bringing that to your line manager, that even if it's something that's not very fixed, perhaps as a local arrangement that you can come to that allows you that flex at either end of the day. We also have ordinary parental leave. So if you've been employed by the university for 1 year or more and you've got a child up to the age of 18, you can request up to 18 weeks unpaid leave per year. Home working is another interesting policy and option that you have. You could apply to work from home or from another remote location on a temporary basis. So that might help you if, for example, you live quite close to an elderly parent who you care for, and it would greatly assist if you could go in at lunchtime and feed them or help with feeding. But it's too much of a journey to come to and from work. It may be possible for you to work from home for a temporary or a more prolonged basis to allow you to do that. Or you might work from home, not from your home, but from your cared for's home, if they live much further away. So that's something that we can also look at. Inga, on that point, is there anything else that you had to add?
I think it can be quite beneficial for both the university and a line manager for that matter, as well as a staff member, having that facility of being able to work from home or from the cared for's home. It allows them not only not to have to stress anymore about giving the care that they need, be that an appointment or even, as you said, being able to help them with lunch, but also because obviously a staff member, quite often their work is very important to them because it's that outside life that they have that is not related to their caring role. And in addition, because they just need the finances anyway, but for them as well, is that it means that they're not stressing about either getting back on time again for work because a GP appointment ran late, as well as not running late for the cared for of getting them to the appointment. So I think it can have benefits for both the university as well as a staff member.
Something to consider. A few other options that we have are contained within our special leave policy. So dependence leave is there for more emergency type leave if your loved one falls, for example, and you need to go to give immediate care. That might be something that you could utilise. There's also the ability to have time off for healthcare meetings with doctors or other professional carers. Normally that's unpaid, but again, have that conversation with your line manager, with your head of department, with your school, to see if there's some flex there in those circumstances to ensure that time can perhaps be made up. And of course we have compassionate leave if a cared for passes away. Managers are going to make every effort to accommodate those needs. Clearly, agreement can't always be guaranteed. And if your request is refused, then you should try and have a further discussion to see whether or not an alternative arrangement can be made that would suit the needs both of the organisation and for the carer. Anything you wanted to finish up with, Inga?
I think all the types of leave that you're mentioning that do of course involve a carer having to disclose that they have a caring role, and therefore they might just not have done so. Sometimes I would therefore hope that things like this, having sessions like this and making it more open, making it more known, that people will sign up as a carer so that they will be able to access these and feel more confident in sharing the role that they have at home.
Okay.
So question 6 is, how should managers deal with a carer's request for changes to their working arrangements? So the university is clear that where requests for support from carers are made, 1, they'll be given a reasonable consideration, 2, there'll be no unfair treatment, and 3, they'll be treated confidentially. We are aware that as a line manager, you may be juggling and trying to balance that request with already agreed working patterns within the team that might make it difficult for you to accommodate that carer's request. So how would you deal with that? The most important thing is to understand why the carer is asking for the support that they're requesting, and to find out which, if any, elements of that are most critical and crucial to the carer. Remember again that your HR team are also on hand to provide support and advice. We may be aware of more different work patterns across the university, or different options that you could perhaps explore that you may not have considered yourself. As I said, there may already be pre-existing working arrangements within the team, but just because those exist doesn't mean to say they're set in stone, and there could be some flexibility around those. Now, speaking to the members of staff who already have those arrangements, they may be able to change those on a temporary or a permanent basis, and most colleagues will be willing to show a bit of flexibility to support a colleague. So certainly we would advise you as a line manager to ask others, because there's no harm in asking, essentially. If you can't agree for any reason to the carer's particular request, we would ask you as a line manager certainly to consider what alternative options you could offer to the individual. So Alison, for question 7.
So our final question is about the practical support that carers can access, and we've got a range of practical support on offer, and we'll run through some of that quickly. So firstly is our new PAM Assist employee assistance provider. So we've got online, telephone and face-to-face support which can be confidentially accessed by carers to help deal with the challenges of balancing what's happening at home with work. Now, there's a telephone helpline which is available 24/7. There's access to counselling sessions which can be done in a range of ways, including Skype or face-to-face somewhere close to you. And there's an online resource, and that's got a wealth of information on a load of topics, including stress management or coping with change, which can be particularly relevant to our carers. We've also got our in-house chaplaincy, which we know that some of our carers utilise so that they can have some quiet time in worship or quiet thought, and that's a place also to go for meditation. So that's something to think about if it interests you. There's also a lot of external support that's on offer, and what we've tried to do is to harness some of that external support, or the information about the external support, and put it up on our carers webpage, because sometimes it's really difficult to work out where all that support is out with the university. Our carers webpage details should be coming up on the screen just now, and you can also access that from the university's homepage. Finally, the Strathclyde Carers Group is a fairly now well-established carers group which meets for an hour over lunch every second month, and it's an opportunity for carers who want to attend, not everybody does, but some do, to meet other carers, some of whom might be facing some of the same challenges as you, sometimes to listen to speakers on various topics, such as dementia or the benefit system, and also to feed back to the university via both Dawn and I about the support and offer for carers and how the policies might be developed in future. Lunch is provided, it's a drop-in session, you can come along when you feel like it. Inga chairs the session, so I won't steal her thunder, and I'll hand over to her to say a few more words about that.
Please be aware that chair the session sounds very grand. I take that cloak off as soon as we're in there for lunch. Alison and Dawn are in there at the beginning. They give us an update as to anything new that's developing and what they're working on. Then they disappear and leave us to it, and that's when I feel basically it's a free-for-all. We just basically talk, we just relax, because that is, after all, still what it is. It's supposed to be lunchtime as well, and it's just about chatting and seeing how we can support each other, having ideas, sharing ideas. It's very informal.
Thank you. Well, we've come to the end of the formal part of our session. If you do have any questions, then please do let us know now, and if you don't feel that you want to ask a question now, via the instant message function, then please, as we said, do get in touch after. And we hope that that's given you some food for thought.
Yeah, so just a reminder as well, we have Carers Week, which runs next week from the 11th to the 15th of June. So just a reminder to carers and line managers that there are events on next week which you can still book into, which you do through Osdo, and we would like to see a number of you there.
So that closes the formal part of our session. As we say, please do get in touch, and thanks for coming along today.